Hey, welcome to Dollar Views. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Stephen Maltmanex.
We're just a couple of Long Beach State film grads with a lifelong passion for cinema trying to put our money where our mouths are.
And we decided to make our BAs mean something by offering our spoiler-free take on the latest film releases.
Plus, any other media we've ingested over the past week.
Whether that's the latest buzzworthy show,
An album that's been on constant rotation,
that indie darling no one can shut up about,
a cute romantic comedy,
or the latest Michael Bay masterpiece.
we go over it all. $1 at a time. Let me guess, you didn't stay for the credits for this one.
No, I stayed during the, not the end credits, I wasn't there, no, but
You
I stayed
never-
for the credit sequence.
No, you never fucking stay. You should really change that.
I had a bus
especially-
to catch so I could get here on time, so...
Whatever,
you know,
get an Uber next time.
there's no Uber in Austin.
Get someone to fucking fly you home, okay? They, at the end of this movie, they use a section from a Smodcast episode where Scott Mosier basically invented the term yoga hoser, and it plays over the thank yous for the script for the movie. And it's like, yeah, thanks Scott Mosier who invented the term, and it's a pretty funny piece of dialogue, especially for someone like me who's never. I've listened to like 3 or 4 episodes of Smodcast.
Same here. Whatever happened to Scott Mosier as far as, making
Producing?
movies with Kevin Smith? Yeah, is he just
Well,
done?
he's doing shit movies now, and Scott Mosier probably doesn't want his name on him.
I guess that's a good starting
But
point, but...
I don't know exactly where he is in terms of business. I would assume that he has some kind of stake in Comic Book Men. I kind of knew, not maybe right away when I met you, but there was a certain sense of, before the show existed, way before then, or not my show, but you being on it, that, we were kindred spirits because the two of us enjoy Kevin Smith's films and humor. And that goes a long way, especially in college circles, at least at the time that we were in the college, because even still, not even in film circles, but just in circles period, Kevin Smith has kind of been a joke for over a decade. He was really not cool anymore once we became, teenagers.
Oh, yeah, no, that's one that I got weird looks for. There was one of the classes where, you have to introduce yourself for the first day, and you say things like, oh, what filmmakers influence you? And everyone says David Fincher or Christopher Nolan or Quentin Tarantino, and I say, Richard Linklater, and everyone's like, who? And then I say Kevin Smith, and they're like, dude, what the fuck is the matter with you? I didn't dare say Judd Apatow because they probably would have lost it there, even if I said Michael Bay for all I know. But, yeah, Kevin Smith, I guess at this point he had done... he had done Red State, which I think gives him some credibility, but, this is after Cop Out, and I love Red State. I know you're not...
I have to rewatch. I still haven't seen it since when I saw it during the road show.
Which we were both at, somehow.
Yeah, we were both at that Will Turn show.
Yeah, before we even met, we were both there.
I think it's hard to say grew up on his movies because of the age, and maybe I wasn't even supposed to be watching his material when it was available to me, but... I watched him somewhat religiously. Dogma was kind of my foot in the door of religion. I learned most of what I know about Catholicism before I did research from the film, and I based it on fact. I'm like, oh, this is the way it works. That's the way the Catholic Church works. If you bless your putters, you'll have a heavenly shot. Starting with Clerks and Chasing Amy and Mallrats and James Bond Strike Back, and really all of the stuff, even Zack and Miri and Cop Out, all the stuff I've seen at least once, and I generally like. Even Tusk, which is by far his most bizarre film. It's his first Smodco film.
Until you get to this, but...
Well, we're getting there. And you could kind of just tell when he reinvented himself. We talk a lot on Two Cents about his stance in the comic book TV show world. He had The Flash last season. This season he's doing an episode of The Flash again, and also an episode of Supergirl. He's super excited about that. He just tweeted the other day, actually, about having read the script and that it's more action-y than his first one, which was just an emotional, just super tearjerker. And you can kind of tell, especially if you follow him on Twitter, he's kind of just gung-ho about staying busy now, even though he's a super stoner. Just, I want to make stuff. Fuck the critics. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for my daughter. I'm doing it for my wife. I'm doing it for the listeners and the viewers that I have on a daily basis for Fat Man on Batman or Smodco or whatever kind of podcast he's doing on the Sear network. Which, I mean, and I haven't even said this yet before we even talk about the movie. I just got to put it out there just so people know that I'm biased. Me, and I'm sure this goes for most podcasters out there, were totally inspired by what Kevin Smith did, not just with Scott Mosier, but anyone really. You tell him Steve Dave, all the guys that he's been, talking shop with literally for quite some time now. I actually went to the Smodcastle when that was a thing, before he went to the John Lovitz Theater to do Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, before they had a tour, before it really was what it is now. And it was just this like very, very, very small, I think like 45-person capacity, quote unquote, theater off of Sunset in Hollywood. And it was just a stage with him and whoever it was doing a podcast with a live audience. And it was something completely foreign to me. I barely even knew what a podcast was then. And there was something about it that I kind of just tapped into. And, this was right around 2011, 2012. And that's shortly thereafter I started doing the show. So there's an obvious bias there. I laid out that not only me, but both of us were fans of his work. And I'm inspired by what he did for non-monetary reasons. And even still, I'm just going to say that this movie is a ton of fun, really fucking bonkers, really goddamn weird, and I kind of really can't wait to see it again. Just not in theaters.
I'm there with you to some extent. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I've sort of been exposed to all year, except just far more obscure than this. Like, there's this thing in town called Weird Wednesday, and there's just some really weird, like, really out there shit that we've seen that really just doesn't give a shit about plot, just kind of makes up random stuff as it goes along and just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And, I mean, this is like one of those, except it's just going to get a lot more shit because it's Kevin Smith.
It's not even that it's Kevin Smith. I was telling my friend, I went and caught a matinee. I caught the first showtime today because this is impossible to find. I had to go 20 miles, either to Orange County or Hollywood. And regardless of or irregardless of the Fathom event being all over the place on Tuesday. So either I paid the $20 or I got the $6 ticket today. Which one am I going to do? So not a lot of people are going to see this just because it's lacking at theaters. But it's going to get...
The only theater here in Austin that it's at, that I went to, it's only got one showtime, and that's at 11:30 at night. So
that's kind of perfect, though, for what kind of movie it is. It is a midnight movie.
Yeah, but there weren't really that many people there either. So
there weren't a lot of people for the matinee. So
yeah, no, like it was pretty dead, and the people that were there at mine, they were hate watching it.
Really? That
like
sucks.
yeah, they were just talking shit on it and enjoying talking shit on it at the end, and that's. Like even then, like I heard people shit talking about Tusk, and I just knew that like it's the exact kind of conversation that you expect.
Yeah, every time you go to the movies, you have that kind of conversation, or you hear those kind of people, or you hear something like that. I don't at all, and maybe it's because I don't listen for it. But when in my theater, a lot of people were laughing with me, not at the movie, but with it.
Mine, they were laughing in places but I want to say some was genuine laughter because there is a lot of funny stuff here. Like legitimately funny. Like holy shit, Kevin Smith can write. Like I kind of forgot that he was a really good writer and he writes a bunch of funny shit. And there's a lot of really great, just little jabs in the beginning with these two characters. And
Paulines.
But yeah, I mean there was like some funny stuff, especially from. Like, I laughed at a couple things from, like, the shit best friend of the popular guy, what he said.
Oh, yeah, the Teen Wolf guy, yeah. Yeah, he seems like he could break out from this movie just because he's kind of been pigeonholed as, oh, look at me, I'm on MTV's Teen Wolf.
He kind of looks like Andrew Garfield to me.
A little bit, like Andrew Garfield,
I thought for a second, like, wait, did Andrew Garfield get cast in this and I didn't know about it? What the hell?
It's like Andrew Garfield if he got hit by the ugly stick once. Like he's close but not quite there. I think it's the hair. Like he's clean shaven. But I told my friend, the guy Zamir who I went with, I told him before we saw it, I was like, this is gonna be a bad movie. He's like, okay. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like it's actually gonna be bad. Like it's supposed to be bad. And he's like, is that why people aren't gonna like it? I was like, no, people aren't gonna like it because they don't understand that a movie's supposed to be bad sometimes.
Well, I wouldn't say that. It's, like what this is that it's a movie that's not written with the brain. like at all. It's
Yeah.
it's written straight from the heart, like like not just stuff that obviously echoes Kevin Smith's personal life,
I think that's more
but
Tusk. This
like
is kind of just like written with his fucking weed. I don't know. Like he makes some really interesting choices here, especially towards the end,
I
where
think
it's
Tusk
just
is
like
more like I wouldn't say that's strictly the heart. I mean, that movie is just it's really disturbing in quite a few places, and it's like I think it's seriously fucked up in ways that are actually effective. Like
yeah.
if you want to complain about cheap rubber suit, it's like it's supposed to not look real. That's kind of what's really fucked up about it.
Oh, if you don't like the suit in Tusk, by the way, before you see this, you're gonna hate the fucking Bratzies. Like, this is like the worst CG I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah,
Not
but
the
it's a $4 million movie. I mean,
That's
like
what I was
this
gonna
thing is
say,
a
yeah, like-
cartoon. Like, of course, it's funny because it looks cheap.
you could tell that he just got really high, was riding in the middle of the night. He wanted to make something that his daughter could star in with her friend Johnny Depp's daughter in a movie that has both him and Johnny Depp in it. And this is kind of like nepotism on film, in a good way though. Like you can tell that it's not exactly that he's trying to highlight their talents, even though uh, Lily Rose Depp gets a really bizarre French-speaking role just so she can probably flaunt that she can speak French and get more roles. Like there's just really bizarre script writing towards the end where it's like some really interesting dialogue that has to be explained like a second later, and I can just picture Kevin Smith like in his den writing going, oh, that's really fucking funny, ha 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 ha. That's more Seth Rogen. And then like a second later it's like, okay, let me do some backstory, explain why that joke works. In particular, like Ralph Garman's character, like you get his introduction, and then literally like 5 seconds later he's like, oh, and by the way, I did this. And I was like, did he really just explain why that series of jokes just happened? Not exactly lazy, just like it's
Well,
kind of like
it's-
what you
it's
said.
just
It's
kinda
like,
like-
I don't give a fuck mode. Like,
Yeah, it's just
judge
like,
me.
you know what? Fuck it. Why not? I think that this is funny. I mean, like it's not something that you can really review. I think
Anything can
really
be
like
reviewed.
if this wasn't made by Kevin Smith, maybe I would shit on it. Like I bring this back a lot, but Freddy Got Fingered. Like if I was a fan of Tom Green, if I knew like if I had been exposed to his stuff and I liked it
Bums on your
beforehand,
lips. My
and then
bums
all
on
of a
your
sudden
lips.
I saw Freddy Got Fingered, then maybe I would appreciate that on the same level as this. Because I mean, like I will say, like Freddy Got Fingered. As much as
you
I fucking
appreciate this more than Freddy Got Fingered?
well, here's the thing. As much as I fucking hate Freddy Got Fingered because it's just not my thing. Like that movie annoys the shit out of me.
Get
but
cinema,
even-
hashtag Freddy Got Fingered.
And even then, like as much as I gave it like the lowest of all ratings that we had for any Dead to Cinema flicks, I still said, you know what, like he gives it his all and he's doing his thing, and some people are gonna like it. You clearly like it, and I got to give him credit for that. People are gonna hate what Kevin Smith is doing here. They already do, evidently, and like I'm not. I got to give him credit for at least doing it, for making a movie that is this cheap and getting it out there on a pretty massive level, and just saying fuck it, I want to make this movie, and then he gets a bunch of people to join him to do it, and it's the fact that he's able to do that. I mean, fuck, what have I done with my life? If I was able to make something like Yoga Hosers, I'd be fucking proud, even if I got a ton of shit for it. So you really have to admire him for at least getting the damn thing made.
Not really, with how much clout he has still. Like, if you just take the revenue he gets from his podcasting network.
Yeah, but
and-
who is
and
getting
the-
paid for this? Johnny Depp is not getting paid.
No, well, he might be. You didn't stay for the credits. He had a stand-in. He had his own sound technician. He had an assistant. He had wardrobe. He had his own makeup
It's a
person.
$4 million movie. I don't think that this fulfills his pay.
Maybe not,
salary,
but
yeah.
no, maybe this year actually. The way his career's been going the last couple of years, and then with his divorce looming, like I'm sure he could do anything he can now. Like there's enough Kevin Smith fans that probably like Guy Lapointe that it's gonna work for them. Which is still like the most bizarre fucking character ever. The fact that his moles move around his face, and that his facial hair changes, and like his accent kind of fluctuates at times. Like
Did he
he's
have
just
moles and tusk? Like
yeah, no, it was the same
really?
exact gag. Yeah, because like there's a point in this film where he has one in between his like where his unibrow is, and then it moves in the next scene, and so I
And
was
then there's
staring
like
at it.
one, and then there's like 3 later on. But I mean,
No, it's really bizarre in the this is Johnny Depp just having a ton of fun kind of
Yeah,
way.
like I liked him better here than in Tusk, because I mean, like
Well,
in
it
Tusk, that's
matches the
just
movie here.
exactly like that's just. I mean, Tusk was a movie that I seriously thought was pretty disturbing in some ways, like just in
And then
some
you get
body
this
horror ways,
super comical Johnny Depp. What
and
the
it
fuck is
just
going on? I'm
and
a
it just
save
kind
the
of goes
day
on
thing.
for a while, and it's just like, okay, you're using Johnny Depp on screen for as long as you can. You probably didn't cut a single thing out because
'Cause
that
it's
gives you a
Johnny
lot
Depp.
of credibility having Johnny Depp. Like, yeah, that's a big
Yeah.
thing, but
Especially in that movie. And
yeah.
I'm gonna buy this movie for $1 movie. No, that was Red State. Never mind. He didn't even try to do that with Tusk. That movie's still solely underrated. I think it would make a great Halloween flick for a ton of people this year, especially for people that are a fan of podcasts, just because the idea of like a what the fuck Mark Maron guy being abducted and being subjected to that kind of torture.
I mean, not just that. It's like,
Um,
but what makes that movie, like, to me, pretty unnerving to watch is Michael Parks. Like,
Being
he's
awesome.
like, the concept is ridiculous, but he sells it as like this crazy guy who will seriously fucking believe.
no, he makes
that
it
if
seem
you-
real. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and that's what makes it fucking scary. Is like, no matter how fake that suit is, like that you're fucking stitched to a pelt like that. Like, I would fucking hate to be in that house. Like, that movie just fucking creeped me out.
Probably one of the better things that this film does is the way that it connects to Tusk and
Mhm.
it kind of fleshes out how the True North trilogy is going to go. And I know you know, but maybe your audience doesn't. But at this point, Kevin Smith has kind of abandoned the View Askew universe. Perhaps Clerks 3 is coming. I don't know if
2018, let's hope.
Mallrats 2 might be a thing still, but probably not. But for the most part, he's moved on from the View Askew universe. It seems like Moose Jaws is going to be his next movie, and then perhaps Hit Somebody. And by the way, did you notice that big like golden statue in a park of a hockey guy? It went by too fast. I couldn't freeze frame it in the theater, but I felt like it was Buddy McCracken or it was some kind of Hit Somebody reference that if a fan were to see it again, maybe they could come out with. Because I mean the Pucky Charms thing, sure, but there's enough hockey here that it kind of seemed like a big kind of like wink at like, oh yeah, I'm still doing that hockey movie, at least for someone like me that follows his career.
Like,
Did
I
you-
didn't
did you
look
pick up
for
on that or
anything
no?
specific. Like, I know what you're talking about, but I thought it was
Uh-huh.
just like one of those things where they just
Yeah,
keep rubbing
it-
in the fact of like,
It could be
hey,
one of those things.
this is Canada, you guys.
Yeah.
Listen to how they talk. I mean, like, it's so exaggerated to the point where it's just like, I see that they're having fun with it, but it's like, I mean, come on, you're pushing it a bit too far with the Canadian accents there.
Yeah, I mean I think that's kind of why some people don't have it. Like the principal, I mean Johnny Depp has his own accent,
Yeah.
but the call. It's I don't even know which Colleen is Colleen, but Harley Quinn Smith, her accent is kind of thick, but Lily Rose Depp, hers is almost not there at all.
Like, I seriously couldn't even hear one. It's just it like you hear just a certain emphasis on how words are pronounced, but then when it comes to just speaking English again,
Eh.
it's not there anymore.
It's like the
It's
U's,
like, now you
the
just
S,
sound
sorry,
like a normal
sorry.
American. Yeah.
It's I mean I kind of get it's as Canadian as Tusk was. I'm sure Moose Jaws is going to be more so, but Moose Jaws sounds good. There's the concept of Guy Laplante and whoever else doing Jaws but with a moose. Salsa shark. Like
It's really weird to
dun,
imagine.
dun, 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 salsa shark. He's been leading up to it since forever. I mean, it's like Chasing Amy has Jaws references.
Mhm.
The Clerks does. I think Mallrats does. Like half of his movies have a fucking Jaws reference
It's like,
in it.
when's he gonna make a Star Wars type movie?
Oh, that'd be awesome. I mean, with the way that Warner Brothers has kind of adopted him into the TV realm, like imagine if you got to like direct an episode of Star Wars Rebels or something, or better yet, he just got like
An
he got
animated show?
yeah, or he got like the Lando episode or like the Lando solo movie.
Well, I don't think it works like that for animated shows. Like, they tend to have the same people on.
I'm just
throughout the
I'm
entire
fucking
thing.
dreaming big here. I'm sure
Alright.
he is too.
Hey, there will be
I-
probably a live action Star Wars show at some point, I'm sure.
Well, I don't
It'll
know.
happen one day.
They've been working on that for so long. Like
At
it
this
almost
point,
happened
it's
on
owned by
HBO.
Disney. It can happen.
Nah, their live action stuff just fucking sucks. But this movie was kind of quoted on the internet as being Clueless meets Gremlins, which is an almost accurate thing, except not really, because both of those are
I
so
wouldn't say
much
at
better
all,
than this
no.
movie.
Like, honestly, the closest thing, like, or what I was kind of thinking that this was gonna be with, just how hyper this movie was, like from some of the clips I saw on the internet. I thought
Uh-huh.
this was going to be something like Joseph Kahn's Detention, and it's not really anything like that at all.
This is kind of like Scott Pilgrim meets.
Well, that's sort of what
Oh,
Detention is, except just
is
way
it?
more hyper than like. Have you not seen it?
No.
Oh, it's
Eh,
it's
I'm gonna
it's
have
a
to check it out
really
soon.
like I don't know. I'm not gonna like say it's really good, but I enjoyed it and it's really interesting and it definitely is something that would work well for repeat viewings. But it's also very polarizing, like this would be. Although
I don't see
I
this
think
movie
Detention
being
has far more.
polarizing though. Like
Oh yeah,
this
like
movie, there's nothing here that's offensive. You can tell just kind of the tone and the way
yeah,
it's
but
lit
just
and everything.
polarizing
And
as far as taste. Not
oh,
like there's
sure,
nothing
sure.
here that offends you, but there's just things where you know that some people are just gonna watch this movie and want to turn it off right away because it's
I don't
like the
think
weirdest
so
fucking thing that like
because
yeah, once you see Bratzi's there, like some people are just gonna tune out.
this is one of those movies that's so weird that I highly doubt anyone would even turn it on if other than being a fan to begin with, because neither of the stars have any, stardom really.
Hmm.
There are a good amount of quote unquote cameos here. Enough of the bit players, Ralph Garman, you got Kevin Conroy doing a cameo, Tasha Leone, what's his name? Buster Bluth, whose name escapes me. Kevin Smith has barely a cameo. Like you have some fun people here. Justin Long is really great as Yogi Bear.
Yeah.
I wish he was the
And there's
Walrus.
the other people in Tusk. My favorite one, like, okay, that was my thing, was that when I saw that the cast from
Uh-huh.
Tusk was coming back, I was thinking, oh, so they're going to bring those characters back?
Nope.
I was hoping that I would
Fucking
see that
assholes.
Walrus kick some ass
Yes.
at the end. Like,
I
something
thought
like
the
that. But
Walrus was
that's
gonna show
what I
up.
thought, yeah. But
Haley Joel Osment was gonna keep being a fucking douchebag. I was expecting something, instead they're just like recast as completely new people, which is fine. It's just when you're making the second part of a trilogy, it kind of messes up things. It's
yeah, but,
doing the like, yeah, Ryan Reynolds is 1,000 superheroes thing.
I can't complain, though. I got Pretentious Frog Pose. That had me laughing for a while.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that really worked for me, yeah.
Yeah, the pretentious frog pose, the Atlas shrugged. Shrugged, like that. Most of Justin Long in this movie is great. He's great in just about everything. Like,
Yeah.
he's a totally underrated actor.
But my favorite thing in this movie, though, was Haley Joel Osment. Like, that was something that just, I mean, it had me laughing.
Even though he was in
like,
the movie for like what, like 2 minutes?
just
3
the
minutes
image
max?
of him as like a Nazi poster boy, though. Like,
I could see it
that was
now.
enough for me to crack up. And like that's the thing, is that most of the funny stuff for me, like the height of that was in the beginning, and then after that I was watching it and going like, yeah, it's I guess it's amusing. Like, this movie is not it does kind of just make shit up and like goes along and does what it wants, and it's really just Kevin Smith just having fun, and like
There's no rhyme or reason to it. It is
No,
totally
it's just-
bonkers on purpose, and I think
Yeah.
it's just him going, how far can I push myself away from my brand? Because he started with the super, totally almost cinema verite thing, which he's now basically remade twice. You start with Clerks. It's as real as it gets. You can't afford color, so it's in black and white. You can't afford music, so there's nothing like, oh, you have the whole, it's the Dante's Inferno thing going on. Like, this is what it's like to be a Gen Xer in the real day world, right? And then you remake the fucking thing with Zack and Miri, which is what would it be like to make Clerks? And then you get this movie, which is, what if there was a Clerks movie except they were superheroes? And it's like, how many times can he do the same movie? Even get,
It's just he's writing like some that he's familiar with, and it's I
Sure.
think that we just Kevin Smith does not shy away from just talking about his life. Like, he talks a lot, like, so any personal details of his life, they are out there. And so for anyone that really pays attention to his work, they're bound to see what those threads are. Like, that's the thing, is that the more that you talk about your life and your own work, and then you're kind of just talking about like your own style, or just what you're interested in story-wise, or the type of movies that you're interested in making. And like those threads just immediately become more and more and more clear. Like, it's like, honestly, like Zack and Miri, the whole Clerks thing was not something that was immediately obvious to me when I first saw it. And I had seen Clerks at that point, and the more that I paid attention to like stuff like Evening Wits, and then there's some of the Smodcasts, like, and then just following him on Twitter, like, there's very few surprises now. Like, 'cause for something like this, it's not necessarily something that works as a movie either. It's just, you're very much aware of everything that is self-referential, or that Kevin Smith is referencing at for a very specific audience to understand.
But
so,
when you get his own daughter basically
yeah, and then there's the
playing
line like,
same role that he was,
Yeah.
I'm not even supposed to be here today. It's like at the same time, it's a wink at the camera and it's also an eye shrug. Like I rolled my eyes so hard that I was like happy in the moment because I'm like, cool, I get it. This is her first time being in the spotlight. She's being in a movie that her dad made that is kind of a new interpretation of the movie that he started his career with. And she, does her own
Hmm.
version of the iconic line, which totally sucks
Well, yeah,
in the way she does it
well, because
because
it's
she's
like
not a
you're
good
saying,
actress.
the line was not iconic when he originally wrote it or when it was said the first time. So then, yeah, like now that
But it has
it's a recognizable
gained.
line, when somebody else is saying it now, then of course they're saying it like it's a very well-known line. So of course it's not going to work the same way. But they're just having fun with it. Like I think like he's obviously talking about how much he loves the movie and he doesn't regret. And I'm sure for him, like making it, yeah, it
No, I
was a
mean,
fucking great experience because he got to work with his own kid. Like,
it's not even just that. This movie starts off with a musical number of two
hmm
girls having a lot of fun. And Adrian Brody, not Adrian Brody, Adam Brody as their drummer, like covered in fake tattoos. Like it
yeah,
starts
it's a
in a
really
really
solid
great
opening.
way. Like it kind of yeah, it sells itself. It sells who these characters are, what world they're living in, where they work, like just about everything. Even the, I already said the Scott Pilgrim esque introductions, like the way the bios come up on screen, which is probably one of the cooler things about this film because I don't know if you caught this, but it's like kind of tied into the filmmaking because they have like the live text dialogue going on.
That's where I guess the detention comparison comes in because that is a movie where there's just so many things happening on screen on purpose. Like there's texts that come up and they go by way too fast that
Hmm.
there's no way you can possibly comprehend the entire thing. And so you got to freeze frame it and then like go back and reread stuff. And it's really hyper like in that way. Like this is sort of close to that in that it's sort of a movie that's made for the ADD generation, but then again, I feel like
Sorta.
kind of like that movie. It's a movie that's made for a generation, but it doesn't necessarily understand them yet. It'll be more interesting how it looks when
Hmm.
somebody from that generation is making movies that are supposed to appeal to people later on, and then one day people will be fucking nostalgic for the times that we're in now, and that'll be an interesting world to live in, I'm sure.
Kevin Smith doesn't quite
Well,
understand
but of
his
course,
daughter's
it's like
generation. And
you
it's pretty
you see
obvious in this
stuff on the
movie.
surface, but
He,
and that's exactly what this is, and that's what you get. But you never get to the core, the heart
yeah,
of it, of like what it really feels like to be of that generation. You don't get that filmmaking voice until someone from that generation comes in and makes their own stuff.
to an extent, I mean, Jason Reitman with Men, Women, Children did, as far as I'm concerned, that and Unfriended are the best versions of what it's like to be a millennial, even if they're on the opposite sides of just not even the genre spectrum, but just filmmaking styles and just about anything you can think of.
Like
But
even
there's
though I
a
love Men, Women, and Children,
mhm.
I'd still say that's very much on the surface level. Like it doesn't really get
No,
in
it's
deep.
like
It's
there's some of the relationships in there, and
Yeah, but
especially I think what I
it's
enjoyed
explores
more.
like different facets of like all those relationships,
Yeah,
and you get the point of each one, but it never goes very deep in there in the sense that like I think you can still go and really focus in on it's.
it's yeah. What else? I wasn't saying that it's great. It's just I think it's still the best interpretation I've seen of Internet of Things society. That everything does seem connected in that movie, not just in the way that the storylines are threaded together and cross one another, but more so how they're all connected and how that plays out. Like you do get a great understanding. Whereas in this movie, it's just these two are always on their phones. Ha ha ha! It's so funny. They're always on their phones. Let's use that for a gag. Let's use that for a joke. Let's make that a plot device. They're always on their phones. And outside of the cool bios, there's really no other reference for it. There's no other need for it. It still seems like, oh, it's like a kind of trashy C-list action movie with a bonkers twist that is also kind of a creature feature while still trying to appeal to the teen audience. And it doesn't do any of those things great. But I really gotta just commend him for going out there. Like I said, I do want to see this again, more so than I've wanted to see any of his more recent films like Tusk, Red State, Zack and Mary Cop Out. Maybe Cop Out's pretty damn funny. But the rest of those, I got no interest in rewatching them. Like they don't have the appeal that his earlier works did for me. Like like I said at the beginning of the episode, I grew up on on Clerks. Well, less so Clerks, but Mallrats and Dogma and Jane Silent Bob Strike Back. Like I grew up on those movies. Like it really, it cemented my kind of personality, things that I'm interested in,
Hmm.
like the video games and the movies and the media,
Like
and so
I'm
much about my
seriously there with you
worldview.
on that, but like I don't get that of his new stuff now. Like
Me
it's
either. And
when I
except
see
this
Kevin
one, I
Smith
want to
now,
see it
like
again though.
like I don't mean this as a criticism at all. Like I'm not trying to insult the guy or anything, but like the when I see the View universe, I do see like that guy from Jersey, making movies like
Uh huh.
just about what he wants to make, and it's stuff that like I think you just maybe because he was in his 20s when he made those movies too. Like I'm closer to the point where I can at least relate to what's being said in those. And god damn, man, like he made Clerks when he was 23 too. Like what the fuck have I done with my life? But
It was
I
a
mean,
different time then,
I
man.
know, but like, and now, like when you see him online, like all the stuff on his podcast, like when he's in front of the camera for Screen Junkies, just that I mean, the camera loves him, but it seems like Hollywood has got him now. Like I just don't see the humble guy
No,
anymore. Like
he's. I think he's still humble. He still talks to his fans.
oh,
He's
he interacts,
still
yeah, but like it's like wow, he seriously seems like the full on like just a Hollywood type persona is like gotten to him. Like he's
his
fully.
whole career though has always been about I'm one of you. Not I'm one of them who's like you, but really I'm one of you. And when he's literally living in Jersey, working at the convenience store, that's
Mhm.
easy to translate. But then when he goes further and further down the line, when he's directing TV shows, when he's making movies that he didn't write, when he's, making movies adapted from his own podcast, like it becomes less and less one of you. It's more like I'm kind of special. I'm doing things that you wish you could do. And I think that's more so what it is. And just how he's able to try to redefine himself, or just how he's been looking to find himself, period, once more, has been really fascinating these last couple of years, because it all started with Red State, and ever since then. And I think that this is a perfect step in the right direction. Like I think this kind of movie is the perfect setup for him being able to make Clerks 3. Like he's attaching into his zanier side. Like
Yeah,
Clerks 2 is the movie where they have a dance number on, like, in the middle of a fucking what they in front
which
of
is awesome.
movies,
Yeah, and I mean, like
which is
it's
awesome.
there's
Like that
even
was one of
Jay
the
and
best parts of the
Silent
movie.
Bob where he just kind of had
Oh, that's
fun with
that's all the over the place in that movie.
I know
That's like
no,
the
but
height
like
of his fun days.
well, but like it does show like I as much as I kind of miss the View Universe guy like. And like even Red State, I do think like it's clearly a personal film to some extent, but I think with this, it kind of does go to show that like yeah, you don't necessarily have to have something very deep and personal say every time. Like like it's not like there isn't
Hmm.
anything here that he doesn't care about. Like that stuff obviously comes out, but I really want. I don't know. Maybe I'm just expecting too much out of it, but god damn it, I really want Clerks 3 to be something that just
Amazing.
like just kind of goes back like just a trip down memory lane,
It's
something like
going
that.
to. It has to. Like, there's a reason why he hasn't used those characters in so long. Like,
Hmm.
Dante and Randall are sacred. There's no reference to them here. They could have easily done something. Like, this is self-contained despite being so close, you know? And
I guess I don't know. Like I can't imagine watching this without at least being familiar with the stuff that they're referencing. Otherwise, it
people are
just
going to be. There's going to be, I don't know how many people, but I'm sure that there's going to be teenage girls who don't know that there's more than one version of Batman. Like, they do think that the Christian Bale voice is the voice.
hmm.
Like, that whole joke they're going to be in on, but not in the way that we were. And that's okay. Like, I think he's really trying to make a genre, not so much in that this is a creature feature, but more so like this is a movie for an audience that he's never tried to write for. Like, this isn't meant for his standard fans. Like, people like you and I aren't necessarily the people that he wrote this for. Like, he wrote this for his daughter's friends. Like, so his daughter can go out with her friends and see this movie together, or they can be jealous that she got to be in it, or who the fuck knows? Like, who knows why he made it in the first place? Just to have some fun.
Yeah, I
And
mean
it's very
it's
apparent that he did so, and I'm happy for that, and I
well, it's
want to
just
see it
nice that
again.
he hasn't repeated himself. Like especially with Tusk or even Red State. Like he hasn't made a comedy since
The Clerks 2, basically. Well, Zack and Miri.
Yeah, well, I
Cop
mean, well,
Out,
even
Zack and
Cop
Miri.
Out, yeah, but like, or well, I guess a comedy like that's his own, really. I mean,
Like
like this
comedy,
is
comedy, yeah.
this is closer to, I guess, Cop Out in the sense of like, I guess just the reaction of the film and how he's reacting to it is just like, hey, this is just a movie I wanted to see that I wanted to make. Although the difference is that there's obviously the personal connection on this one for him. But yeah, I don't love the movie. I'm not so sure I will see it again. Maybe if it's in the background, sure. Maybe if it's on Netflix and then they have an audio commentary track on there, then yeah, sure, maybe because of that. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. It is what it is, and I guess to quote the whitest kids none wrong with that.
I wasn't offended by it. I had a good amount of chuckles. I enjoyed it just about as much as I thought I was gonna be. I might have been, dissatisfied with some of the plot and some of the
What plot,
j-
really?
exactly. Like there might have been some things that I was not let down by, but I was expecting a little bit more. But I still got exactly what I was looking for. I got a matinee. It was really cheap. It was very short. It held my attention for as long as it wanted it. Like there was never a gamble. I wasn't looking at my watch. I wasn't like, oh, I really got to take a piss or anything like that. Like I wish I would have slept in. Like it was a fun movie. Like it was a summer movie, more so than they've put out like at all this summer, to be honest. I haven't really seen
That's a
anything.
pretty bold statement, honestly.
I'm just saying, like this was no less entertaining and fun than Ghostbusters was, or Suicide Squad, or even Batman versus Superman. Like this was just as much of a romp and just as much of a blockbuster and almost as much of an action movie as those were, and at a fraction of the budget with just as much talent on the bill. It's just that this is very niche and very weird and very obscure versus those being these huge tentpole monsters. As like, we haven't had any good summer movies this year, like true summer movies in the way that we kind of expect them to be. And if this were to get some kind of social media push, I think that it could change that. Like people would potentially could go see this and like it. Like I would love to know what the cinema score is on this, because Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, they're not going to paint the right picture. I don't know how you would critique this. Like I said, like I didn't disenjoy it, but I also didn't enjoy it either. Like it was so not for me.
This is the thing
Um,
that's going to have a select group of fans
yeah,
or just a group of defenders, really. And I guess, like, I
I'd be
would
a
probably
defender
be
for
more in the
this.
defenders camp,
Yeah,
yeah. Like, as
like
far as
it.
just like, hey, it is what it is. Like, I don't mind it. And, hey, it was cool. Like, I definitely was never bored, even though I think, even though this is a technically well-made film, I think the
Uh huh.
weakest part of it is its editing. Like,
There's some
some
problems
scenes
there.
do run a bit too long, I
Yeah,
think. And I
mostly the
think it could have been tightened
flashback
up.
type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nazi background is some of it goes really long and then it comes back. Like all of that exposition was kind of
Then again, like the way it's
yeah.
structured, the beats that it's supposed to hit, like
It hits
even
them.
though this is a movie that's kind of all over the place, it does hit everything where it needs to, and all the information that you're supposed to know at the right amount of of time. But yeah, it's just it's yoga hosers, man. Like that's the best I got here.
So I did catch a couple other things this week, not really in full, but the first one is a perfect segue. Well, not the way that I set it up, but Jay and Silent Bob, they were huge in their heyday at the top of the Viewers universe. They were some of the biggest things ever. They were on Degrassi. That they're in their own comic books. They had their own action figures and shit, and they were so big that the Weinstein's put them somehow in Scream 3. And then to return the favor, Wes Craven showed up in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back directing Scream 4. So it came full circle. I really wish that when I got to do the Q&A back in the day that he caught that reference I was trying to do about
Yeah,
how he was in that.
that's
But
really
either
unfortunate.
yeah, either or, I was at my brother's house the other day and my his girlfriend was looking for a movie to put on. I said, "How about Wes Craven's New Nightmare?" She'd never heard of it before, so we watched it. She was kind of watching it. My brother wasn't watching it at all, but I totally was. It's officially the first Halloween movie or scary movie that I've seen this year. So my season kind of started. Really underrated movie. I forgot how much of a slow burn it was because it'd been like a good 4 or 5 years since I'd seen it. But just, oh my God, like it really there's no jump scares really or anything that traumatic until it gets going. Like it really like begs for your attention. It's kind of like that first Elm Street movie, how just slow paced it is until you fully understand, like, oh, this is Freddy Krueger. He's the one that's going to kill you, type of thing. But just how meta it is and how beyond reality it gets with the fact that there's no opening credits. It just starts that you have actors playing themselves, directors playing themselves. There's a stalker like subplot in the movie, and Heather Langenkamp actually had a stalker. The fact that it came out in 1994 and it has a lot to do with earthquakes, and it was like they wrapped production like 2 months after the Northridge quake happened. Like, so much about the movie is crazy accurate. And then also, just to tie it back, Johnny Depp was supposed to be in it, but Wes Craven was too shy to ask him to do it. You've seen it though, right?
No, actually, you want to hear something sad?
What?
The only Nightmare on Elm Street movie I've
Freddy's
seen.
dead. Freddy versus Jason.
No, it's the first one. Well, yeah, Freddy vs. Jason does count, but okay, of that, of I guess what is canon, yeah, just the first one in Freddy vs. Jason, and then there's the remake that had what's his face, the guy
I
that
can't
played
believe
Rorschach.
Can't believe you watched that fucking remake.
I really wanted that movie to be awesome.
That was a
Like
mistake.
that
Horror
movie,
remakes are never good unless it's Dawn of the Dead.
it was Platinum Dunes though. Like they got some good remakes. I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Friday the
Didn't-
13th one is fun, you know.
Didn't
And
see either of those.
like I mean the trailer though, the first one for Nightmare on Elm Street, still such a good fucking trailer. Honestly, like it's so gorgeously put together. Like there's some great imagery in it, and it looked fucking creepy. And yeah, there are moments in that remake that were pretty awesome, but they don't last very long. Anywho, yeah, you know the one I actually really want to see is Dream Warriors because I keep hearing that's badass.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. It's actually
Oh.
kind of funny, as much as, I stay away from scary movies and I don't really talk about horror, despite my, having a background in scaring people for Halloween
Yeah, like
attractions.
what is it
I
feels like you're always trying to make up for that somehow because October is like your one thing, like as far as movies that you just seem to be religious on. Like you don't have like as far as I know, like that one movie that you watch at the same point every day, every year. Well, maybe Groundhog Day, and that's it.
Yeah,
But,
Groundhog Day I try to watch.
yeah, but like the Halloween, that's the one thing that you're religious about. Where you're just like, okay, one movie every day.
I don't do every day, but I try. But what I was actually going to say is I actually, for a stint of my childhood, I grew up on Elm Street. And so it's like a whole fucking thing. Like, you tell someone where you live, and you're like, oh, like the Nightmare on Elm Street. We're like, yeah, you're so fucking smart. You pieced that together. Oh man, I was gonna say the first time I saw Nightmare on Elm Street, I was actually on Elm Street, and I think I had nightmares. Uh, so
Man, yeah, for me, I was catching up on horror pretty late because I had a pretty sheltered childhood. But you know what? That's the thing I forgot about Yoga Hosers. I actually really dug how they used the theme from The Shining in it.
did they? I don't even remember.
Yeah,
that.
no, like it's near the last act of the movie. Like, in fact, there's a lot of really good musical choices that I liked. Especially like the best thing with Ralph Garman was just that introduction with the
Oh, yeah, the
music.
introduction was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he opens his mouth, which was kind of a
He's
problem. But
really weird.
you know, I mean, I guess with Ralph Garman, the stuff that he's best in when Kevin Smith directs is the stuff that he's quiet in.
Like
a la
in
Red State. Yeah.
Yeah, no
not in
dialogue.
Tusk either.
Yeah, no dialogue.
Yeah,
Um,
Tusk he speaks and it's not that great.
But you should check out New Nightmare. You really should. Even if you haven't seen the franchise, you only really have to see the first movie. The way it
Mhm.
works, basically, you could do Dream Warriors too.
Oh, yeah.
'cause
I've been told to
that's-
watch that one because I keep hearing
Yeah,
it's like the
yeah.
best one.
I'll watch Dream Warriors event. Maybe I'll watch Dream Warriors this year. It's because Dream Warriors is the only other one that Wes Craven had a hand in writing. I think he came up with the story, but more so, they have Heather Langenkamp come back as the star, so they have a return of the final girl. And so that kind of makes it really the only other one. Because I've seen Freddy's Dead, the final one, and it's so fucking bad. I think it's PG-13. Like, it's really bad. It goes, like, at one point, he puts the kid in the dream, like, in a Nintendo system, and he's, like, has to play a video game to save his life. It's like, oh my god, like, it goes so off the rails. But New Nightmare, it came out, like, just a year or two before Scream, and it's just a perfect kind of stepping stone or prototype of what Kevin Williamson did there with how meta it is. Because whereas Scream is kind of tearing down or picking apart the rules of the horror film and genre, New Nightmare is just kind of disassociating or trying to break down what is reality and what's fiction. And there's some really great stuff there with like text to like script to screen. It's just fantastic, and especially with Wes Craven having passed, to see him in a movie, direct himself, playing himself, trying to make a movie about the movie that's being made. Like the only thing that I've ever seen that's similar to it, Stranger Than Fiction is kind of close, and then also, shit, I was gonna say, I can't remember right now. I'm off. Oh no, there's some movie coming out soon that also has like Garcia. Fuck, I can't even think right. That has. I'm tired.
You're tired.
Yeah, it has Gael Garcia Bernal in it. I can't remember the title of it, and it has something to do. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where it's like he's making a cartoon, and in the cartoon
Yeah.
there's a girl, and the girl is doing this, but then in the real world she's an author, and the author is making a guy who's making a cartoon. Like it comes a full circle thing, kind of like adaptation. I was thinking of adaptation. So there are a couple examples of movies like that. It's just that.
Wait, I think you're thinking of Ruby Sparks also.
Oh, Ruby Sparks. The
Yeah.
real one I was gonna say is Mouth of Madness. The John Carpenter movie that I watched last Halloween. Real awesome. Like there's only a couple examples, but just when you are able to make a movie, not necessarily about making movies because there's a lot of those, but a movie that kind of breaks down what it's like to just write anything or create something, or when creation comes into the fold to the world making of the movie, and then more so when the world is already made because it's reality. Like there's some really interesting, fun stuff that Wes Craven does in the movie, and then the final 20 minutes are just fucking awesome. Like once it becomes a full-on Horror Street movie, once it like embraces its like its monstrous urges, it goes completely in a perfect direction, and I'd buy that for $1. It's probably the best thing that Wes did on his own because he wrote the thing, he directed it, he produced it. Like it was all him. Whereas Scream, someone else wrote that story. But you caught something, right?
Well, I did see the number one movie of last weekend, which was Don't Breathe, which everyone loves, and it pissed me the fuck off.
Fede Alvarez doesn't do it for you?
I can't tell you why because I don't want to spoil it, and I'm not going to tell you not to see the movie. But
yeah, I want to see it.
like suffice to say, the first half is so fucking good and is doing everything that it should be doing just right. And then at the halfway point, just something happens, and the movie just gradually ends up. It just ends up going downhill. Like it does something that I don't think it should have done, and then it sticks with it, and it's not necessarily executing it badly, but like the fact that it's doing what it's doing, like it really isn't like a shit film until the last 5 minutes, where I think it just ends up ending in a way that, to me, is sort of everything that's wrong with modern studio horror right now, or like
Is it Studio who made it?
Screen Gems did, and it was made for a
Okay.
low amount of money, but
It's still Sony, yeah.
it's there's very specific words that I have to hold back on, because if I say it, then it's going to give you a pretty good idea of where I'm going with this, or you'll just think I'm fucking crazy. But because there's no way I think. Just if certain things happen after the release of this movie, then I'd be right, which it'd be ridiculous to. But yeah, just it ends just in a way that felt like a total fuck you to me as an audience member. And if we did a full review of the movie, I would definitely bitch about it for a long time on For a Few Dollars More, because it really just fucking rubbed me the wrong way. Like it's really well made. There's a lot of really cool stuff. This concept is really well thought out, but then it brings in one element that just takes away everything that was so good about that first half for me, and then it becomes something that is just more like it's just not as strong. It goes from thriller to just kind of cheap horror flick, I think.
I still want to see it. I'll probably check it out next Halloween. In the same way that this past one I saw Babadook and It Follows. So I'm usually a year or two behind on those kind of things, just for personal reasons.
Well, a lot of people love it, so it's totally worth checking out. I'm sure. Like, I'm not going to dissuade anyone to see it, but I need to engage in some sort of conversation around it, because like it really, I walked out just pissed off.
Talk to Brennan over at Scream 101. I know he wrote a review for it,
Mm-hmm.
so he might want to talk to you about it.
Well, we'll see.
Give it a try.
Yeah, although I guess the other thing, and this is just a segue, not intentionally, but I guess into Dead to Cinema this week, I saw The Time Machine. A movie that everyone I guess forgot about, came out in 2001, and
No, yeah, with Guy Pearce. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have that DVD. I still have it somewhere.
really,
I had it. Yeah, Guy Pearce and Orlando Jones, and you got well, they're like the only two people in it.
yeah, and it's
actually.
like only 90 minutes long, and just kind of
Real
goes by
fucking weird. Yeah. It's
Like,
apparently supposed to be like, I mean, I have read sections of H.G. Wells' Time Machine, and it's
Mhm.
pretty accurate. Like, it does do a pretty fair adaptation. It's
like I've
just
seen the other
it's-
adaptation too, and like
it's
this
better
movie
than the
does
other
reference
one.
it,
Yeah,
but
yeah. It's just
this one also brings in though a love story, which like has
You
so
need
many
it
cool
in-
ideas of where to take that.
an adventure movie needs a love story. It just needs it.
Like this movie could have been amazing if it was like 3 hours long, or hell, maybe even 2 hours and 40 minutes, because like this just has the making of an awesome epic, like that's an incredibly well realized just epic story, and it's obviously cut to shit, and I don't know what happened, because this is directed by Simon Wells, who's mainly an animator, and this is his first live action film, and I don't know if
Just
production
a bad movie.
just went badly, and they had troubles with the script, because they brought in Gore Verbinski to shoot the last act of the movie.
If I remember
d-
correctly, wasn't that like Guy Pearce's follow up to Memento?
Yeah, I think it might have
like
been right after the
shortly
Count of Monte
thereafter.
Cristo, or maybe it preceded that. I'm not sure, but I mean, God, such a bummer, because there's so much cool stuff here. Like, Jeremy Irons is like built up as the big bad. Like that's how it was sold it to me, and he only gets like one scene.
Was he the
And-
Marlock guy or whatever?
Yeah, like, and, I mean, just the idea behind that character, like the things that are implied to me, it's like there's so much that you can do there, but it doesn't end up doing anything, because it's a movie that's only 90 minutes long, and really just like after like once he starts traveling to the future, it just kind of takes like the basic cliff notes of like, okay, how can we take all this complex shit and still form some sort of narrative, which it does a really bad job of it, and doesn't let you get invested in anybody. It's just it's a mess of a production, and I can't hate it. Like, it's not a good movie at the end of the day, but it's such a bummer, because like there's something here that could be really, really good, and
No.
I really wanted to see it ever since I was a kid. That's kind of why I ended up watching it.
No,
Like
that movie is
I'd seen
bad.
I'd seen the teaser, and like just it was one of those early 2000 teasers that had like the cool text and the flashing lights, and that just the music and everything made
In
it
a
seem so
world
cutting
where
edge.
time is always moving forward, imagine
I
if
miss
you
stuff
could
like
move
that, man.
back. The Time Machine, starring
Well,
Guy Pearce.
He moves forward, but
Whatever, okay?
yeah, I mean it's
Well, he does both. He does both.
He does, but it's yeah.
The
it's
time
just-
travel
it's a bummer.
technique is actually pretty cool in that movie. It's probably one of the better things about it. No, I totally remember the advertisements and everything, and I went to like a Blockbuster Hollywood video, and it's super cheap, and I got it. And I double checked my bookshelf right now. It's not on there, so I don't know where it went. But for a period of my life there, I had that movie, so I've probably seen it like 2 or 3 times. But no, it is.
I gotta say, the effects for that movie actually
No,
hold
it's,
up
yeah, the
insanely
effects
well.
are really good. Yeah, like the
Insanely
time
well.
travel and like the moon
recreation
stuff
of New York and all that,
just
like-
the museum, the time lapse.
Yeah.
Like it's a real good looking movie. It's just
Like,
not a
there's
good.
some really good sets, and then there's also some cheap ones that are obviously
bad.
probably from reshoots. It's a mess of a production. and-
Everything about the Orlando Bloom character is bad. It was just stupid. It was like, how do we kind of convey?
Do you mean Guy Pearce?
No, well, both of them, but Orlando Bloom, or not Orlando Bloom, Orlando Jones, the black dude that works in the museum, or I mean, is the
yeah.
museum. Like everything
Yeah.
about that quote unquote character is so bad. Like
Well, it's like there's again, that's one of those things where it's like there is an idea there, but
we need
you're
a
just-
constant conversationalist. Let's make an AI companion.
yeah,
like,
well,
that's
it's just like if it was longer than 90 minutes, I could buy that something was fleshed out there, because you even gave that AI a character, and like there was a fascinating idea in there as well. But no, you kind of just you made him a type that's there for some reason. Like, I mean, this is one of those things where it's like these things are here, and this movie goes by so quick that it doesn't have enough time to flesh them out. So I have to believe that they're there for a reason. And
Nope.
like, it's not like anything is performed badly. It's just we're not given enough context for anything because it's cut to shit. And it's so depressing to watch. And just there's even like big moments in here that I think are like a minute long that clearly cost a lot of money. Like, there's some destruction moments. It's just like, I swear there's like a whole action chunk that's like missing here that could be like 10-15 minutes long, and they just cut it for time just to throw this out in theaters and make as much money off they could from limited show times.
Well, I caught a better time travel movie this week. I was watching in passing when I was designing the new business card that I'm going to be coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
I got 500 coming my way. It is the Series 2016. It looks very sexy, if I might say so myself. So pay attention to the internets. Maybe I'll post some pictures for you guys. Or you'd be lucky enough to get one in person. Or maybe you got one, and that's why you listen to the show. But I caught most of Demolition Man, one of my favorites of Stallone movies. Or Wesley Snipes movies. It's so bad, it's good. It's one of those. And like when I was rewatching, I was like, wow, this movie is not nearly as good as I remembered it being. There's like such smart commentary on where we live and why and stuff, and just some really great lines and jokes and references that are just iconic. But then the movie on a whole is not good, and it's in the trashy, like, I want to drink a couple of beers, eat a steak, and like feel like a badass type of movie. And like, I mean, that's like every Stallone movie basically that doesn't have Rocky in the title. And it's just it's kind of like the perfect little time travel cryogen movie though. But more proof that my Halloween season is beginning. I watched the first like 20 minutes of House of a Thousand Corpses last night also, like right before Demolition Man was on.
Uh-huh.
And I saw just enough of that movie during that time period where I was like, yeah, I don't think I'll watch this again. Like, it's such a weird fucking movie. Like, the Captain Spaulding stuff is pretty damn good, and it was pretty cool. Chris Hardwick and Rainn Wilson start the movie. They're the guys in the beginning. So, like, I knew Rainn Wilson, but I was like, wait, the fuck, that's Nerdist. Like, that's Chris Hardwick. It was totally, like, out of nowhere. I was like, so I knew who he was before I knew who he was. But oh man, like Sherry Moon Zombie, her character, super sexy, super freaky, so crazy. But like after, like I saw House of a Thousand Corpses before I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre. After seeing that, like it's like just a poor ripoff, like wannabe version that is trying to take it to 11. Like it is so fucking lame. Just of what I saw in it, like it's a freak out, like gore fest, like predates gore porn, but it just. Oh, let's do like the craziest thing. Let's cast this like freak of nature to be this scary looking dude that has like a heart of gold. Let's get these really like bizarre, crazy looking people that say fucked up things, that want to do bad things, and throw some blood in there and some of my lyricism. But then you get like these cutaways when it starts to like archival footage that was made for the movie, so it's like grayscale, but I don't think it was shot on like 8mm black and white, but it looks that way. And just so much about it that it made me very happy that I decided not to see that in theaters with my brother and made my parents see Malibu's Most Wanted with me instead, which is a much better hallmark of the 21st century. The movie's fantastic.
I fucking hate House of a Thousand Corpses.
It's
like,
so bad.
I watched it. Blake made me watch it because we were doing a list of shame thing. We didn't have a podcast.
Devil's Rejects too?
I had seen Devil's Rejects at that point
that one's
already,
way better.
I own that movie on DVD, and I freaking loved that movie when I first saw it.
That's a good movie, yeah.
I
saw that in theaters. I laughed the whole time in the back row. It was hilarious.
See, I was forced to watch House of a Thousand Corpses. Like, I hate it. It's like,
why would that be on a list of shame?
Too, it's like,
is that it's Rob Zombie's first movie type thing?
Yeah, but also he loves that movie too.
Really?
A lot of people love that movie. Yeah,
I can understand why his fans would love it, but like I like his music, but I'm not a fan of his. I'll watch his movies. Like I want to see 31 just out of curiosity to see what.
The House of a Thousand Corpses is like it's also very much like the thing I remember is that it's very much a movie that's clearly made by a music video director and not someone who understands narrative yet.
He didn't
or
really
style.
make music videos at that time though.
Well, but he was probably getting into it. Like, and there were a lot of it felt like Avid farts just as far as how it was edited and just all these weird video filters thrown in. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like
as
in the
if
beginning,
it was made to seem cutting edge, but it really isn't. It's just like, oh, let's just throw this shit in there and see how it is. Whereas Devil's Rejects, like I was so scared that I was gonna hate it because I had not seen it since high school at that point.
Movie.
Yeah, I know. And then I pop it in. It's like it is just as fucking intense and unnerving as I remembered it being. Like that is a movie. Like it is so fucked up, but at least it provokes a reaction, and it's like like it's something that's just so difficult to look away from. It's disturbing as hell and very unpleasant to watch, but and like it's also fucking really just darkly funny, but like goddamn that movie, like there is a vision in that movie. It's not nearly as confused or just like, hey, let's throw some weird shit in there. Like there's weird shit in House of a Thousand Corpses as far as like design wise. Like you can't
Just
help but
everything
like
about it.
kind
Yeah.
of laugh at Fish Boy just because it's Rainn Wilson. That's kind of funny.
But I still think Rob Zombie's best thing he's ever done is Werewolf Women of the SS. Like I would pay really good money to see Nicolas Cage as Fu Manchu for a whole movie.
I
I seriously would pay so much money. I'd pay like $20 just to see that shit, just to see that joke for like an hour and a half.
and I think it's a good joke for like 2 seconds, and that's it. And we got just as much as we
Uh-uh.
need there.
I
It
want to
could go on
see
too long.
if Machete can get a movie. Rob Zombie gets the movie. Plus, aren't they making
Oh
the
yeah, but
Thanksgiving thing too?
yeah, but
Don't.
I'm not convinced that that's a good idea though.
I want
Like
to see it.
Machete was a good joke as a trailer.
What if
The
what
movie
if
itself is eh.
what if they make Don't into a movie though? Wouldn't you see that?
Yeah, probably just for the sake of seeing it, but I doubt it would be really anything good. If like what would that be about?
It'd be bad. It would be about not doing things. It's called Don't.
Exactly.
Those movies were like I wish they had made a Grindhouse sequel. Like they did the same exact thing. Like maybe the trailers in that got the spotlight. They were adapted to the real thing. The next one had trailers,
Yeah,
and they
but
made it
it
like
tanked,
into.
so
I
obviously it
know,
wasn't gonna
but like I'm
happen.
just saying, like like in today's blockbuster economy, it wouldn't have tanked. Like if Hateful Eight can make that much money, it would not have tanked. Like if it had the same kind of like traveling roadshow with the special flyers and shit, and maybe like made it more of a spectacle. It was just released at a weird time in cinema. Like they were trying to capitalize on Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez's fan base, but they didn't know how to market well enough. Like those were in the years between Dimensions and Miramax and the Weinstein Company become a thing. Like it was a weird semi not perfect time for that whole industry. So it should not have tanked. I like that. I don't think the both movies. I don't think Death Proof and Planet Terror are great by themselves. But the way
But I
I
think
saw
that,
it,
like
like
that's the thing is
in
like
the
Grindhouse, those movies are not great. Like you
no,
watch Grindhouse for the experience of Grindhouse, and how do you sell that movie to an audience? Like when they're watching trailers for that,
they
and
sold it to
I
me
remember being in
perfectly.
theaters, like the concept of a double feature went over a lot of people's heads. Like they were just kind of like, wait, so what movie am I seeing? Like, is it
I'm
two
seeing two
movies? Well,
movies.
one seems kind of cool. It's got a car, but what's the other one? Like, like that. And if you can't sell them on seeing both movies, like, or even then, like, I don't think people watch trailers to be sold on an experience. They want to see like fragments of a story and see if it's something that they want to get into and experience that for themselves. But
That's one of those
like,
movies that didn't need a trailer though. You just said Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, Grindhouse movies
yeah, but I
with
mean, it's like,
trailers and intermission and weird wacky shit going on with cross pollination between the characters and the director showing up as in each of the movies. Like if you just say that, you're like, oh yeah, why not? I like their movies. Um, I
I
don't
mean,
think
yeah,
it
like
would
the
have failed
audience that
today.
knew them, they showed up, but you can't really sell the rest of America on it or the rest of the world for that matter.
Well, it's like a
in fact,
3-hour
they
R-rated
split the
movie.
movies in the rest of the world too. So,
Yeah, well, they split it on home media too. Like it was like almost a 3-hour R-rated movie. Like
hmm
that's a hard bargain. That's a hard sell. But I saw it the way it was intended to be shown, and I really enjoyed what I got. Like it was quite unlike any other theatrical experience I'd had up until that point, and I got a lot of money's worth. Like it's kind of the equivalent of going, to be honest, to a New Beverly screening. Like it has that same kind of atmosphere.
yeah, like that. Well, that's the thing. Like at that theater specifically, you get that feel. If you go to a multiplex, it's not the same thing. I can tell you
But
that.
I went to a multiplex to go see that movie, is what I'm saying. Like, and I got that kind of sense of just the audience. It felt like I was part of a special society that they too were part of. And when you go to a special movie house, especially if it's a Redux type place, you get that revival sensibility. But I got that same kind of atmosphere, that collective effervescence at an AMC theater just because of the power of that double billing. Like it was very special. But that's all the movies I saw. But I did do another double billing too. Matter of fact, over the past 2 weeks, I've been playing a lot of EA's new multiplayer games. They had a beta for Titanfall 2, where actually it was called a tech test, and then right now there's a beta for Battlefield 1 going on. So between the two of those, I've probably put in like 5 or 6 hours. Lots and lots of fun. More so in Titanfall 2, which was pretty zany. As someone who's put in, I don't even know how many days, like 8 into Black Ops 3 in the actual game, not even counting the beta for that. Just a really great way of repurposing its same exact mechanics, even though they used them first in the first Titanfall, and then also making it fresh by having a big ass mech come out of the sky. Really fun. Like, and then Battlefield 1 also. Like, I just bought Battlefield 4 for like 450, and I played a couple games the other day with Luis, who's been on the show, and we both didn't like it. I was getting really mad about it. I had a couple drinks before I was playing, but I was like, fuck this game, it's rigged, it doesn't look good, all these kinds of things. Whereas then I'm playing Battlefield 1, which instead of being modern day like every other video game or the near future, the far future is set during World War One. So it's pretty fucking badass. It looks gorgeous. It looks even better than the new Battlefield, not Battlefield, the Star Wars Battlefront game does from last year on the Frostbite 2 engine. Just very, very, very pretty. And the fact that you can get planes and tanks and armored cars and like little buggies and horses and just the way the sniping feels and just so much about it. The completely destructible environments. You can get in a tank and run over buildings and kill people like inside them and stuff. And you can do this with 32 people versus 32. Like just at that scale, like there's lots of fun. So I don't know if I'm gonna buy either of them, but if they were in my wheelhouse, because I'm already $100 in on Call of Duty, but if they were closer to if I get a discount, like a major discount, like if I could get either of them for $20 or less, I would definitely buy them. Like, even without the campaign, they just seem like kind of games that you can play over and over and over again without getting too tired of them. Because I've got to this point now with Call of Duty where it's just kind of like I know why I'm playing it, but it's so repetitive, it's so quick, it's so fast, it's so arcadey that there's a challenge, but it's like it's a double-ended slope. Like there's no way to win. Like either the game is fucked up or the people you play against. Whereas, and you could argue that maybe I was only having fun because these are the betas for these two games, and that there isn't really a an audience there yet, and they haven't abused the game, or they can't make you feel like the learning threshold and the curve and everything to do with it and the ceiling, like it's all perfect right now. Like it's the way it's supposed to be. And it seemed for both of them that EA is knowing what they're doing between DICE and Respawn. So I hope the games do well. They're both coming out at the end of October. And so if I do get either of them, you can come back and listen to that. It's, me trying to do more video games. But like I said, the other double feature, two quote-unquote rap albums came out this week, or the last 2 weeks. So I've been listening to a lot of Frank Ocean's Blonde, and also Vince Staples' Prima Donna EP. I probably heard the both of them at least 4 times, which is kind of easy for Vince Staples. I think it's like a 25-minute EP, whereas the Frank Ocean album's like an hour long. Both really good. If you're a fan of the artist, you're going to like what they got there. Vince Staples, it's hard to even put them on the same scale because one is by a masterful artist and the other is like this Long Beach kid who's angry and likes being a loudmouth and kind of shouting at authority. If you're having a bad day and you want to get through traffic, listen to Frank Ocean. If you're having a bad day and you want to drive through traffic, listen to Vince Staples.
And you live in Long Beach and you understand what is being said.
It's less so that.
It's less geographically specific.
There's lots of references to the city and streets come up and landmarks and like restaurants and schools and stuff like that.
But there are small things like that where even if it goes over people's heads, like it hits you in a specific
you're not
way.
you're not gonna be lost for any of Vince's lyricism. It's more so, and I didn't even I remember the first time I heard the name. A buddy was like, "Have you heard the new Vince Staples?" Like, who the fuck is that? I didn't know who he was. And then I did a little bit of research. And I was like, "Oh, this is the guy that's been on those Earl Sweatshirt tracks. Who I don't know who he is." And after enough time, I was like, "Oh yeah, like I kind of know who this is." And then his album came out right around the time that Dope did. And I was like, "Oh, that's him." And now I follow him on Snapchat, and he's fucking weird. But he knows how to rap, and he's probably the best young lyricist out there that I'm aware of right now. Like, there's just so much ferocity in his delivery, and it's beyond angst. Like, you can tell he's an angry black man who wants to, get things right, or like he wants, despite talking so much about burners and gang violence and fuck the police. Like, the only thing I run is from the cops when the sirens are coming at me. Like, despite all of that kind of shit, at the same time, like, you can tell, even though he's from the North Long Beach, which is South Compton, that he's from a good family and he could have got a good education, and instead he's doing a rap career. Still a really fun guy, really funny guy. Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on Dead to Cinema, where one or both of us crosses a title off our list of shame.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
And we're also on Google Play Music, iTunes, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just about anywhere on the internet with hours of content available to you for free. But for those of you that feel that the show is worth your dollar, you can send us a donation at patreon.com/dollarreviews. Contributions not only earn our undying love, but they also make it possible for us to improve our recording equipment and to give you the highest quality episodes possible. But more importantly, they'd be helping us acquire the content to review. Trips to the multiplex are expensive, and the more donations we receive, the more films we can review for your listening pleasure.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the Loveviews site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films that I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.